The situation in the North African nation of Sudan continues to deteriorate at this hour as the country is teetering on the brink of a civil war. And this deterioration has happened very fast. The U.S. is monitoring right now the situation closely, already has evacuated all U.S. personnel and their families from the U.S. Embassy in Khartoum. That's the capital city. This came after an order from President Biden over the weekend. At the same time, there are hundreds of people believed to have already been killed. The fighting between two military rival groups has intensified as both look to take control of the country. For more on what all of this means and the next steps from the U.S. and our allies, I'm joined now by Lieutenant General Richard Newton, former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff and our senior national security contributor. As always, a pleasure. The U.S. military evacuating these embassies happened over the weekend. It's also very rare because it involved U.S. military personnel. They did not leave on civilian aircraft, as we saw happen in Kyiv. What does that evacuation and the nature of it indicate about the urgency of this situation and the conflict?
Well, the decision was made, as you mentioned, over the weekend, certainly and approved by the president, to evacuate a little bit over 70 U.S. Embassy personnel in Khartoum. And the mission itself emanating from Djibouti, nearby Djibouti, which we have a very large U.S. military and special operations presence. The mission actually on the ground at Khartoum at the embassy grounds with 3 MH-47 helicopters took less than an hour. We had some great assistance from Ethiopia where we were able to refuel our aircraft and so forth. But that itself, however, they've been planning this, for several days. And so, again, the United States military and our Department of State folks as well, again, really kind of made this look relatively easy in a very precarious, very challenging environment. And we were, again, effective in getting our U.S. government personnel out of the embassy.
Right, which was successful and safe. However, there is some debate about how many Americans still remain in Sudan, upwards of 16,000, give or take. What now for those private American citizens who are still there?
Well, it's unfortunate. Our State Department, I think, and rightly so, have told them to hunker down and, frankly, do not anticipate anytime soon a major U.S. evacuation of those citizens. Those are a lot of dual citizens who hold both citizenry in Sudan, but also the United States. And if I was advising the president at this time, I would not advocate for us to do a major evacuation of those American citizens there. They're just going to have to hunker down and really try to stay out of the conflict, but which is really now becoming, Marni, as you mentioned, a civil war. It'll be very difficult to get them out if we even considered that. And so I'm sure what the military is going to be doing is providing as much intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance on the ground there, or as well as our eyes and ears overhead, to see in the event that we do have to evacuate them, that was likely going to be a land evacuation out of Khartoum and other parts of Sudan, likely into the port of Sudan on the Red Sea. But it would be very difficult right now, and I would highly recommend we not do that at this moment.
Yeah, so shelter in place, it's a scary prospect for so many. Sudan right now, the reason this is happening, attempting to transition to a civilian democracy, right, run by the people. Talk about the history of these two groups. You've got the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. And until a couple of years ago, the two sides are pretty friendly. So what has changed?
Well, what has changed is, well, frankly, I'm going to use a very non-diplomatic term. Sudan is a mess right now. There was a coup in 2021 whereby you had a somewhat unified military conducting the coup. But since then, you had these two armed factions of the military, reportedly the commander of the Sudanese military and the deputy commander, now at odds with one another, fighting for control, fighting for power. And it's likely whoever wins that conflict will end up being the president of Sudan. But that to the side, what's happening is you've got the Sudanese people, and including our American citizens and other international citizens, caught in the crossfires. And so it'd be very difficult to, again, I think we're just going to have to wait this through. The challenge with this conflict is it's already a very unstable nation. It's just going to invite more instability, which will then compel challenges for key African nations such as Egypt to the north and Ethiopia to the south, which will invite likely could be external interventions such as Russia and others. And so there are some consequences to this just beyond the conflict in Sudan. And so we have to pay very close attention to this.
Right.
At the moment. We certainly are.
And thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.